So today I actually have an idea that I've been working on for a little while. I started doing the how I would fix certain classes in Wild, and now I'm thinking how I would fix an expansion. It's going to be pretty simple. I want to do, I think, maybe 3 cards per class. I think doing more would just be a little too much work, to be honest, for what it would be. If I was going to do something more, I would want to do the entire expansion, and I just don't want to do that. So to start off, we have Druid. If you saw my How to Fix Druid video, you already know which cards I'm going to pick. Of course, that being the Hero Power Synergy or the Attack Synergy cards from Druid in Rhastakhan's Rumble. I might not have said Rhastakhan's Rumble, to be honest, but what I had done in the Druid video is I changed it to Battle Cry, and at the start of your turn, I guess it doesn't need to be that. Use your hero power. And then I changed it to 2 mana because I think at 1 mana that would be too strong. I think that hero power using and attack synergy is a big portion of what Rhastakhan's Rumble is going for, and Druid later on in Festival of Legends really solidified this hero power package with Groovy Cat, with Free Spirit to, your hero power is where you're going to get a lot of your attack from. In the past, you would have spells that would do it, and it was fine. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't bad by any means, but it was a little less consistent than what this is. This is a little more consistent. That's why I like it more. And I like hero powering. I like pressing the button. That's why I like to do something like this. So this Spirit of the Raptor, it now gives you +1 armor and +1 attack on 2 if you just play it for 2. Or it'll give you, up to, 10 attack or 10 armor or whatever, depending on the amount of buffs you have to your hero power. I think this is a great change. I think it's a cool, interesting idea for Druid. Next up, we have Savage Striker. Again, same thing. What I had changed to Savage Striker was Battlecry. Use your hero power. Hero power. Then deal damage. This might be a little too strong, actually. Unironically might be a little too strong. However, the fact that this card was already so bad doesn't really change that. You know what I mean? I feel like it becomes a minion rake. Minion rake, of course. It's a little better and a little worse because against Battlecry, hate Boom Pistol Bully and the, what's it called? Nerubian Unraveler. It's worse, but it's not a spell, so it's better going to slow them. Yeah, it's arguable. And then, of course, if you have a lot of stacks on your hero power, this becomes even better. I think this card requiring you to play other cards to make it actually useful, it makes it a little more fair, but I think this is just such a cool effect. Battlecry, use your hero power. If you get 3 attack, then it does the 3 attack. It's so cool. It makes the card a lot better. Savage Striker is already kind of okay in Even Druid, so it would be nice to see the card be better and push the game plan of Even Druid more. And again, lastly, if you knew the video, it's going to be Gonk. I think Gonk can easily go to 2 mana 2/2. It could be a 2/3, I guess. I just wanted to make it a little weaker. This doesn't make the Gonk combo good. I don't know why people were saying that. They're like, oh, the Gonk combo, that sucks. All this does is it makes it so you can play this in Even Druid, of course. It might genuinely be too good for Quest Druid, and if that's the case, you can maybe bump it to 3 mana, 3 mana 3/3, that would be probably fair. However, then you have the issue of, okay, but what about Odd Quest Druid? That would probably be too strong in Odd Quest Druid. That's why I think putting it at 2, I don't know. That's something that you would have to work out. However, I think if Gonk went to 2 mana and no other change, I think you could just put it straight in Standard as a core set card. I think this would be a cool inclusion of a older legendary to put in Standard for core. There's already attack synergy cards in Standard from Festival of Legend, so it'd just be a really cool thing to do for, current year. If they don't ever plan on printing more attack, I guess it doesn't make sense, but you understand where I'm getting at. Now, I wanted to get those out of the way really fast just because I've already done them. Hunter actually was one of the better classes in Rhastakhan's Rumble, because, Hunter got some pretty decent cards. Spring Paw's pretty good, Headhunter's Hatchet's pretty good, Master Skull's pretty good, Zul'jin was pretty good, and I think I want to change not any of the bad cards. I think all the bad cards are just so bad that there's no point in changing them. I think what you could do is just buff some of the weaker cards. You start with Master's Call. I think this card is really, really cool. It's really fun. It gives way to a lot of different decks, actually, and not just Beast decks. It lets you do Boom Zuka very efficiently, and I think that's really fun. I just want to, tack the mana down to 2. I don't see why a conditional draw 3 for 2 mana is that bad. I mean, yeah, the card is in core. Of course, you would let it rotate before that, but I think it would be a little fair. Beast Hunter fucking blows ass in Wild currently, and this would be a big, big, big buff to the deck. Like, it would maybe make the deck probably, tier 1 again, genuinely speaking. But current Beast Hunter is just so fucking unplayable. It needs something, and this would be a gigantic thing to give it. Just 2 mana Master's Call. One card that I've always wished was better is Headhunter's Hatchet. It thematically fits in for Hunter incredibly, incredibly well. I think what you could do is you could just make it, instead of if you control a beast, gain +1 durability, I think you could make it, if you control a beast, gain +1/+1. I think that would be fair. Just like that. I think that would be a lot more fair. It would be, a lot better. It would be pretty good in Face Hunter decks. It would probably still not make the cut in Beast Hunter, but I mean, if fucking Pirate Rogue can have a 3 mana 12 damage weapon that also gives a charger +2 attack, Hunter can have a 2 mana 9 damage weapon. That's so fair, dude. Come on. And then the last Hunter card from Rhastakhan's Rumble I want to talk about is Springpaw. Springpaw used to be one of the best Hunter 1-drops in the game, but it's fallen off so much in every way. You don't even run this in Beast Hunter, and it's 2 beasts for 1 card. I think what it should be is summon a 1/1 Lynx with Rush. I know that might be a little too strong, but I don't care. Oops. There we go. I think that would be a little better. I think it would better suit where Wild is going. Of course, this card, sometimes comes back into Standard in the core set. As you can see, you're the Griffin, but I think this would push Wild Hunter a lot. It needs something. Hunter doesn't have a single good 1-drop. Like, it needs something really good. And I know this would be way too strong in Beast Hunter, but does that matter? Does a fucking deck that's so bad that the only reason it's on Tempo Storm and other, websites, meta reports is because they want to have a Hunter deck? No, I don't think it's that bad to buff a Hunter deck if it's that terrible. I mean, you already know where I'm going to go with this, with Mage. Look, it's the Hero Power Mage expansion. It's one of them. It's obvious that I'm going to buff the Hero Power Mage cards, but it's kind of hard to decide which ones. Of course, Daring Fire Eater is a fun minion. I think you could make it a lot better in a lot of different ways that you could really, change the minion. Pyromaniac is probably the least interesting of the cards. Jan'alai sucks. Jan'alai desperately needs a buff. That one is going to happen, don't get me wrong, but I think Spirit of the Dragonhawk, Daring Fire Eater, and Jan'alai are definitely the most interesting Hero Power Mage cards. So the way that Hero Power Mage kind of works is that a lot of classes, better Hero Power decks are even, and that's what's going to happen. I'm sorry, it's what's going to happen. Daring Fire Eater could easily go to remove this turn. Your next Hero Power deals 2 more damage. Of course, I want to make it a 2 mana. I think 2/1 is fair. And then I want to do something a little bit silly. Costs 1 less and deals 2 more damage. Your next Hero Power costs 1 less and deals 2 more damage. It's a tiny bit silly, don't get me wrong, but I think this would be a lot more fun and interesting for, Even Mage. Even Mage doesn't have Wildfire anymore, which sucks. If I ever get to Forge in the Barrens, you already know what's going to happen, but I think this would be a nice inclusion for, even Hero Power Mage. It would probably not even be that great, all things considered. If it was like a 2/3, it'd probably be a little better, but, your next Hero Power costs 1 less and deals 2 more damage, so if you combine it with, Sing Along Buddy, you can get a Fireball, and that's really fucking fun. Genuinely speaking, I love hero powering. I love pressing the button. So this definitely fits to where I want to go with it. Spirit of the Dragonhawk is actually already a kind of okay card in, even Hero Power Mage. I think, what you should do is maybe just give it a tiny little buff to just what it can do, right? Your hero power also targets adjacent minions. What if it was, I don't know I don't know where I was going with this. I actually forgot exactly what I was going to go for. Fuck. I was kind of racking my brain on how to do this. I actually paused and took a few minute breaks. I was actually a little. I forgot what I thought was interesting, but then I was like, holy shit! This is the Overkill expansion. Your hero power gains Overkill. Deal its damage to a G. Sorry. Ooh, I can't think. Southern turn, your hero power gains Overkill. Deal its damage to adjacent minions. You might be thinking, is that not worse than the original? And if you have a 1 damage hero power, yes, it is worse. But, Even Mage isn't about keeping your hero power 1 damage. So what this does is, say you have a 3 damage hero power and you deal... and you hit a 1 health minion. That'll deal 2 to the adjacent enemies, which is already better. But it will then deal its excess damage. Sorry. Then it will deal its excess damage to... it'll deal its excess damage to adjacent minions. So if there is a 1 health minion in the middle, and then a 1 health minion on the left and right of it, and then whatever health minion on the left and right of those, it'll deal 3 to the middle, 2 to the adjacent, and then 1 to the ones on further on. And that'll keep going until you run out of damage. That is actually really fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of cooked with that one. So, Jan'alai is very interesting. I don't want to change Jan'alai from being an odd cost. I think Jan'alai being 7 mana is pretty iconic. I don't think that's how you buff the card. First, of course, you buff the stats. I mean, why is it like that? Your hero power dealt 8 damage this game. Summon Ragnaros the Fire Lord. I think that what it should do is not summon Rag. I know. That sounds crazy. But hero take damage this game. Change... Or wait, I don't know. What would it be? The way that Sulfurous reads it is your hero power deals 8 damage to a random enemy. You get the Ragnaros hero power. I think that would be a lot more interesting. Maybe you could... I was trying to think if maybe it would be fair at 5 mana. I don't think it would be fair at 5 mana. I think it would be a little too strong if it was 5 mana 5/5. But I'm gonna fucking do it anyway. 5 mana 5/5. Oops. And I'm actually gonna... No, I think it's fine. If your hero power dealt 8 damage this game, your hero power... Wait. Your hero power becomes... Actually, let me read Sulfurous again, 1 second. Alright, that's a better way to word it. Oops. If your hero power dealt 8 damage this game, your hero power becomes deal 8 damage to a random enemy. That is the Sulfurous hero power, and I think that would be a lot more interesting than just summoning Rag, because that kind of sucks. And, it's 5 mana. I still want it to be Odd Mage. I don't want it to be Even Mage, because I think that Even Mage and Odd Mage should be slightly different things, personally. Of course, I changed Daring Fire Eater, but Daring Fire Eater fucking sucked. So that was more of a buff to justify it being the buff I gave to it. Yeah, I think this would be a really, really interesting card as, the way it is now. It kind of fits a lot closer to a Raza. You can only use your hero power really once per turn before, Garrison, Singlong Buddy, but, I mean, is 8 damage too little? I mean, you could go back to 7, that would probably be fair, but I think that it being 5 mana is definitely a lot better with the hero power change. Now, Paladin had a pretty interesting expansion. Paladin actually got some good cards this expansion. Thickall, Timeout, Shrivala all saw play. What I want to do is I want to change something like Bloodclaw and... Flashlight. I want to make Bloodclaw, Prelate, and Templar better cards. I think, the other cards are either uninteresting, like Battle Axe, Challenger, and Spirit of the Tiger, or they're actually playable cards. I don't think changing them in any way would really do much. I mean, Shrivala, you never actually play Shrivala, it's just 25. A buff to Shrivala would be to make it 30 mana, So yeah, Bloodclaw, Immortal Prelate, and Zandalari Templar. I think a really simple way to fix Bloodclaw is, of course, it can't be a shitty 2/2 weapon for its downside. But I think that what you could do is lifesteal. Oh, you can't do that actually because of the battle cry, huh? Oh. And gain lifesteal. Very simple change. So you're effectively taking, or you're still healing 1 damage overall because it's a 3-2 now, but you're still doing that take damage thing that was, the idea of this expansion and cards that surrounded it, right? Your self-damage so you can actually get benefits from your healing cards. This would probably still suck, don't get me wrong, but this would be a lot more interesting and it would fit a lot better into Paladin, in my opinion. Now we have Zandalari Templar. I think the idea of if you restore 10 health this game as a requirement is very interesting, but I think the payoff sucks, and I kind of want to just rework it completely. If you restore 10 health this game, gain what? Or do what? I'm so dumb. You know what would be a really cool way to make this card work? You can make it so it gains +3, +1, and Rush, and Divine Shield. So the way that this now, not +4, sorry. This might seem like a bunch of random assortment of stats, yes, but if you're sword 10 health this game, gain +3, +1, Rush, and Divine Shield. You know what other card has those stats? If you guessed Shirvallah the Tiger, you'd be right. I didn't want to give it lifesteal because that would be way too fucking strong, don't get me wrong, but Divine Shield and Rush as Shirvallah makes a lot of sense thematically. It's very interesting. It might be a little too good, I'll be honest with you, but restoring 10 health is actually kind of hard. That's why I made Bloodcaw have lifesteal, so restore 6, so it fits the package a little more. But it's such an interesting thing when you get to do thematic changes to cards rather than just give it some stat buffs. Then lastly, you have Immortal Prelate. Immortal Prelate. This one's going to be really easy. I'm going to put it right here. Cannot be silenced. Wow. Death Rattle. Shuffle this in your deck. He's in your champ. Here, wait. Cannot be silenced. Polymorphed. Or stolen by your... Here, wait. Or stolen. I don't like how this looks. There we go. Yeah, Mortal Prelate. Death Rattle, shuffle this in your deck. It keeps any enchantments. Cannot be silenced, polymorphed, or stolen. Yeah, that's the whole idea of it. Is it good? No. Is it a lot harder to deal with? Yes. I think Prelate is one of those cards that's really fucking fun, but it feels so terrible if it gets, destroyed. In your deck, if it gets silenced, gets polymorphed, or they steal it, it feels fucking terrible. So it doesn't actually make the card any better, but it makes the low points of the card definitely a lot more fun. For Priest, it's weird, because actually most of these cards are kind of okay. Regenerate sees a bit of play, Spirit of the Dead saw a little bit of play, Phantasm saw a little bit of play, Seance saw a lot of play, Grave Horror still sees play, Mass Hysteria sees play. So what do you have left? Bwansamdi, Talanji, Sandrudge, and Surrender to Madness. If you could guess, I'm obviously going to fucking change Surrender to Madness. I think Bwansamdi is fine. It actually saw a tiny bit of play, so that leaves Talanji and Sandrudge. Talanji currently reads 8 mana, Battlecry, summon all minions from your hand that didn't start in your deck. So the current way that Talanji is, it's supposed to synergize with this, Spirit of the Dead and Bwansamdi kind of package, but that fucking sucks ass, right? So why don't I just make it an actually good card? Summon all minions that you've summoned this game. Of course, that feels a little weird, especially for 8 mana. I think that could easily be something like 6, maybe 7 mana. And then, Talanji is bad stats, but whatever. I think that you could do something like this. Summon all minions that you summon this game. Really cool effect. It makes it so Talanji is a good, top-end summon bomb for if it were to be put into Standard. It really synergizes well with things like automatons, because you want to keep resummoning and summon more and more automatons, so it really fits into Automaton Priest. And I think it's just more interesting than the current Talanji is. Like, summoning minions from your hand that didn't start in your deck, that's fucking stupid. So this is like just, a proof of concept idea that you can work with for Talanji. Then you have Sand Drudge, 3 mana, 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a 1/1 zombie with Taunt Undead. I think this card, like, could easily just go to, like, 2 mana. Something like that. Like, maybe, like, 2 mana, 2/3, and then maybe summon a 1/2 zombie. I feel like Sand Drudge is a fine design card. It's just kind of shit. Maybe a 1/1 puts it more in line with Kolkar Pack Runner. Actually, this makes it pretty much just a priest version of Kolkar Pack Runner, putting it as a 2-mana 2/3. So I think doing that is actually a very good change. Okay, now this is the one that I wanted to get to. Surrender to Madness. 3 mana, destroy 3 of your mana crystals. Give your minions in your deck +2/+2. I want to keep the destroy your mana crystals. Don't get me wrong. Gain 1 additional at the start of your turns. Okay, for 3 mana. So if you play this on 3, on turn 4 you'll have 2, on turn 5 you'll have 4, and then on turn 6 you'll have 6. So it doesn't actually give you more mana until turn 7, right? But you already had the downside of, having to destroy your mana crystals for those turns. I think this is a, good. I think this is an interesting card. It gives Druid ramp, or not Druid, Priest ramp. It's not anything special by any means, but it's just a way to give Priest ramp. I think Priest can do it, especially with a big downside like this. Destroy 3 of your mana crystals. You could say maybe make it 2 and then destroy 2, but at turn 5 is when you would get the benefits rather than turn 7. So I think this is a lot better of a way to do it. Sorry, I feel like I should explain. If you played on 3, then on turn 4 you'll have 2 mana, on turn 5 you'll have 4 mana, on turn 6 you'll have 6 mana, and then on turn 7 you'll have 8 mana. If you coin it, on turn 3 you'll have 2, turn 4 you'll have 4, turn 5 you'll have 6. So if you coin it, it becomes good on turn 5 rather than turn 7. That's also why I don't want to make it 2 mana, because I feel like that would be way too strong. But I feel like this is just a lot better way for the card to work. I don't really... I mean, yeah, it might be too strong. It could just be too strong. You're right. But I feel like, come on, dude. Like, it's such a cool and interesting effect, destroying mana crystals, so I want to give it a strong effect. Rogue is another class that actually got access to a fair few good cards. You had Raiding Party and Spirit of the Shark. Like I said, few. But then you have cards that don't really feel like they can be changed, and they're kind of just boring. Stolen Steel is boring. Walk the Plank is boring. Gurabashi Hypemon is boring. You can't change Cannon Barrage. If you change Cannon Barrage to 5 mana, it becomes too strong. If you change it to like 5 mana, deal 2 damage, it might be fair, but it still suck. So I don't even want to work with this one. So that leaves Serrated Tooth, Bloodsow Howler, and Grawl the Shark. And Hook Tusk, I guess, but I mean, there's just no way to make Hook Tusk fucking fair. And I kind of like the cards to actually be kind of fair when I make them. Serrated Tooth, Death Rattle, give your minions Rush for 1 mana, 1/3 weapon. I think you could easily just do 1 mana, 3/1 weapon. Death Rattle, give your minions Rush. I don't really see why you couldn't just do that. It still deals the same amount of damage, but it's more instant. And, it's kind of similar to, like, the Paladin location where you can play it and then pop it to get Death Rattle effects a little easier. And I think this would just be a really fun way to make this card a lot better. Bloodsow Howler cannot go to 1 mana, that's for sure. But I think you could... How do you do this? Gain a +1/+1 for each other pirate you control. Yes, 2 mana Rush. This card is so weird, because if you made it 1 mana, it would be way too good, but at 2 mana, it's so bad. I don't know, like, would you just do 2 mana 2/3, gain +1/+1 for each pirate you control? I feel like that would be a lot more fair. The thing about this card is that, like, it's just weird. This card, in theory, should be really good, but I feel like maybe giving it, the +1/+2 makes it a little better. I don't know. Bloodsow Howler is just one of those cards that feels like it should be good, but it just isn't. And it's kind of very weird, because at 1 mana, it would be absurdly fucking broken, right? But at 2, it's just so bad. And as such, I think making it 2-mana 2/3 maybe makes it a little better. I don't know. It's a very interesting card. I feel like you could experiment with it at 1 mana, but god, dude, would it be so unfun to play like 1 mana 4/4 with Rush on like turn 2? Like, what the fuck do you do about that? It's maybe it could be like 2 mana 1/1. Has +1/+1 for each other pirate you control. Maybe it could be that, actually. That would be really interesting. It would incentivize you to, pick down 1, maybe 2 pirates, and then you can do an AoE, because this will live. Say you have 4 pirates on board, this would be a 5/5. Even if you kill all those pirates, it'll revert just back to 1 health. I think this would be a lot more interesting, actually. Pirates have aura effects as part of their thing. Cannons are like that, and what's it called? The Captain. I think this would be a lot more interesting than the current version of the card. So, Grawl the Shark is weird. The idea behind it is cool. Battlecry, eat a minion in your deck and gain its stats. Death Rattle, add it to your hand. I think you just remove the gain its stats portion, add it to your hand, and then you make it like 2 mana. Eat a minion in your deck, Death Rattle, add it to your hand. Yeah, you remove the stat portion, which is, funny. You can do it with the darkness. Haha, that was really funny. Not actually good. But this now gives you like a tutor to draw a specific, like if you only have like 1 or 2 minions in your deck, you can tutor it with Grawl. Grawl is now way cheaper. 3 mana would still be bad. At 1 mana would probably be fine. But I feel like that 2 mana 2/2 is more in line with where Blizzard wants cards to be. And I think that this is genuinely just actually a lot more interesting than the version that we have currently, genuinely speaking. Shaman is also very interesting because a lot of these cards aren't even that bad. Zentimo is fine. Frog was, fine. Obviously, 3 mana. Bog Slosher saw a little bit of play. Lickham saw a little bit of play. Wartbringer is a goofy-ass card. And then Totemic Slam saw play. Haunting Vision saw play. So it's really Big Bag Voodoo and Rain of Tones at Cragwall that saw no play. However, I'm going to change some cards that, I guess, and Wartbringer, that I want to change Wartbringer for sure, and then I feel like I want to make like Lickham and maybe Big Bad Voodoo a little better. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. I forgot to record myself changing Big Bad Voodoo, but I like this. Give a minion Death Rattle, resummon this minion, and summon a random minion that costs 1 more. Would this be too good? Maybe. It's like, what's it called? Ancestral Spirit. Ancestral Spirit is give a minion Death Rattle, resummon this minion. This is just better. I mean, Ancestral Spirit's not exactly that great of a card. It sees a little bit of play in Big Shaman, and I think it could get a buff with, something like this new version of Big Bad Voodoo. It still thematically fits the old version of summoning a, bigger minion, but Shaman has this, like, Death Rattle package where it's like, you have that 1 mana 1/3 undead that has double Death Rattles that you give to it. So putting this on that would be pretty interesting. You put this on 2, it resummons 2 of those 1/3s, and it summons 2 2-drops. That's kind of fucking cool. If this version of that, the card and that card were still in Standard together, people would be like, wow, that's such a cool thing. It'd probably be too good for Standard, don't get me wrong. But it would be a lot more interesting than what we currently have with that really bad, like, Death Rattle giving your minions package in Shaman. So Wartbringer has a very easy change. It's just, if you played 2 spells, it doesn't even have to be 2 spells. If you played a spell while holding this minion, deal 2 damage. Come on, dude. It just becomes the Naga effect of if you played something while holding this, and it becomes a lot better. You don't have to play 2 spells in 1 turn, which is not hard, but, like, not good enough. Our Wartbringer's effect is not good enough to justify it, and it just becomes, a generic 1 mana, deal 2, 2/1, and it just has a little bit of a requirement involved. Lickham, easy change. Bink, 1 mana. That's all. Lickham, 1 mana, has +1 or 2 attack while you have overloaded mana crystals, makes, Overload kind of aggro Shaman a little better. It makes Odd Shaman kind of a little better as well. You're never playing Lickham anyway, so why not just experiment with buffing it to 1 mana? At worst, you could just make it a 1/2 weapon, so it becomes a Fiery War Axe. I don't see this weapon being too strong because Overload is a downside, so, having an upside to being overloaded all the time is kind of nice. I really don't think 1 mana Lickum would be too strong in Wild, especially. If it were put into Standard, I mean, Nature Shaman probably wouldn't even run this card, but maybe it would. Maybe that 9 chip damage would help the deck, but I don't even think it would run it, personally. Warlock is so scuffed, because obviously you have to buff Hyreek, but I don't want to even think about how you would buff Hyreek, right? The idea is that you would have, like, Spirit of the Bat, and then you would, give Hyreek stats, but, like, God, it's just so boring. I don't even want to think about it. It's just so bad. Demon Bolt could be, like, 6 mana, and that would be cool. I think that's what none of them I'll do. But, like, Warlock just kind of got nothing interesting this set. None of these cards really scream anything interesting, so I'm going to have to, like... Shriek is a really easy change from lowest cost card to lowest cost spell. Maybe even... I don't know. Like, this feels still kind of bad, because dealing 2 to all minions for this effect seems a little off for 1 mana. Maybe 0, it could be 0 mana. I don't know. I feel like dealing 3 would be way too good, but putting it at lowest cost spell also means that if you don't have any spells in your hand, it's a lot better, so I think that is pretty fair. I think putting Shriek like this is definitely just the way to go. Blood Troll Sapper is literally worse than a 3 mana legendary in Priest, so you just fucking... Wow. 3 mana 1/4. After a friendly minion dies, deal 2 to the enemy hero. Wow, that's almost... It's so good. The legendary Priest minion that it does this effect with an undead die spell also gives you a shadow spell. So, like, that, I feel like that's a fair trade-off, right? It doesn't give you the shadow spell, but it's, like, after friendly minion dies. I guess you could say, like, after a friendly demon if you really want, but I think this is actually just a lot more interesting. It would push Zoo Warlock a lot, and that might be fine. I think pushing Zoo would be nice as an aggro Warlock that isn't discard, because everyone fucking hates discard Warlock. It's so goddamn broken whenever it's playable. So I think this would, push regular Zoolock a lot in a good direction. And then Demon Bolt genuinely could just be like 6 mana or like 5 mana. Maybe even... No, 5 would be too much, a little. But 6 mana for Demon Bolt? You have 3 minions on board, and then it becomes 3 mana destroy an enemy minion. That's fine, right? Like, I don't really see how that is too strong. You would just play this in, like, Arena Lock or whatever and be pretty good. You just got, like, a little bit of tempo, and then, boom, you got, like, Asphyxiate. I feel like at 6 mana, Demon Bolt would probably see play in Wild, genuinely speaking. Of course, if you have, like, a full board, wow, 0 mana, destroy a minion? That would be too good, would it? Nah, I don't really think so. I think that this would just be a fair, interesting card if it were just buffed to 6 mana, genuinely speaking. I know I say that a lot, but I really do think it would be. Okay, Warrior has a lot of cards that were very good. Most of these were bad. I think Emberskill Drake is literally the only one of these cards that was good, but there's a lot of cards that you could make good. Starting with, I think Sulthuraz is a card that people really, really liked when it was revealed and thought it would be really good. And again, I want to change the spirit for this class. I think it would be, the second or third spirit that's being changed? Yeah, let's get into it. I think Sulthuraz could easily just become fucking 4 mana, 3, or maybe not, maybe 4/3. Overkill, you may attack again. I think that would be a lot more interesting. You take off 1 durability to make it, cheaper, of course, but like, come on. Sulthuraz was a really interesting card on release. People thought it would be good. It kind of just wasn't. Mainly because Overkill is not that bad of a keyword when it's put on good cards. But at 6 mana, dealing 3 damage to a minion is really hard. At 4 mana, it becomes a lot easier. And, having to attack having to attack minions and take face damage, trigger the effect, definitely makes it a lot more fair. Just like how Gonk would be. So I was gonna do something kind of goofy. What if it was just, one mana, stealth run turn, your rush minions are immune. not immune the turn they're summoned. They're just immune while Spirit of the Rhino is alive. I think that'd be really funny. Maybe you should nerf it to 2 mana if you do that, but that would be really fucking funny. Your Rush minions are immune while this is just up. Maybe it could be on your turn. Your Rush minions are immune on your turn. I think that would be a little more fair, but Rush minions just being immune would be really fucking funny. Yeah, I think this would be a lot better of a change. It still fits thematically with the original card, but it's just better. I think only being the turn they're summoned is really bad. And putting it as on your turn means that if a Kali or a Spirit of the Rhino lives because of the stealth effect, it'll, for 2 turns, you get 2 turns of the Spirit of the Rhino effect. And that's kind of fucking fun. It would be really fun for like a rush aggro warrior to be good, Maybe this would be too strong. Maybe it should be 2 mana, but I don't know. Tell me what you think, right? Overlord's whip could be very easily changed. After you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it, and give it +2 attack. Then maybe lose 1 durability. Right? So you can't play, crazy amount of minions, but after you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it, which is already what it's doing, then give it +2 attack, lose 1 durability, so only for 4 minions, or, depending if you swing with the weapon. I don't want to change the stats of the weapon. I think they're fine as is. I think this would be very interesting. It would make Enrage Warrior a lot better. I mean, a lot better. This would be such a fucking good weapon for Enrage Warrior. So it's, genuinely just interesting. Yeah, I like this design a lot more. There are a lot of neutrals in Rhastakhan's Rumble, and most of them are fucking terrible, right? So I'm going to choose 3 like I was doing for the others because there's so many, and a lot of them aren't even that interesting. So I feel like it would be a lot I feel like it would be better to just, how do I put this? Be better to just pick 3, really. So, obviously you have to pick Zihi. This is one of the most iconic Rhastakhan Rumble minions by far. I think what you could do is you definitely could make Zihi cheaper. I don't really think it needs to be, like, expensive. Self-ramping doesn't really matter, right? So what if it was just a 4-mana 5/5, set each players to 5 mana crystals? That would be interesting, right? This isn't the only change that you could do, but I think this would be a really interesting change, right? 4 mana 5/5, set each players to 5 mana crystals. Right? Like, here, I'm gonna say to 5 empty mana crystals. I know that, like, overall that doesn't feel like it changes much, but if you played this on 4, you would get, 1 mana, right? If I'm doing it correctly? I don't know. I mean, because you would only have paid 4, and then you got set to 5, and I don't know. But I'm just going to say it was empty just to, make a little more sense when you're reading it. Especially in today's game, empty is, like, always put on cards. And I think that this is just a really fucking cool card, personally. I love this design. Changing it to 4 mana 5/5, it's overstated, but it kind of ramps your opponent if you play it on curve. Depending on, like, what turn they're playing, right? If you go first, it does ramp your opponent. I think, and plus Zihi is just, a tech card against Druid that should exist. I think it should. It makes aggro decks better just overall as well, because, like, you want to de-ramp your opponent if you're an aggro deck, so they can't really get to their pieces, and I think this is just great. I think it's really fucking cool. Another card I think you could change to be really interesting is Snapjaw Shellfighter. Instead of whenever an adjacent minion takes damage, whenever any other character takes damage, this minion takes instead. It could be really fucking funny. And then you give it, I don't know, maybe 12 health and I think like 1 attack, so it doesn't stick around. That'd be really, really funny, right? Of course, it is like both for your opponent, right? Where you just attack face and then both will take the damage. But this also works for your opponent. It makes it so, like, hey man, I played this defensive tool, but now, if it doesn't die, what do? I can't kill my opponent. I think this would be really cool for slow decks because, it would be 5 mana, heal 12. Of course, if it gets removed, hard removal. But I think this is actually a really cool card, changing it this way. Genuinely speaking, it fits so many decks, would like a card like this, while not being that great in combo decks, all things considered. As well as, if you were to deal like 13 damage, this would take it all. It would still not, it would take that excess damage, which is really fucking funny against Mind Rogue. That would be so goddamn funny against Mind Rogue, personally. That's what I think. So I think it would be a really cool card. I want to do Ornery Tortoise lastly because it was kind of a meme card when it came out. People genuinely thought this card would be playable in Odd Rogue. So Battlecry, be playable in Odd Rogue. Yeah, really, real interesting card here, 3 mana, 3/5, be playable in Odd Rogue. Oh my god. No, this card fucking sucks. It's so bad. And I think that is funny, and that's why I'm going to end it on this. I think most of the neutrals are so bad and so boring, they're not even worth talking about. The class cards, a lot of them weren't even that terrible. They saw play later on, or they're kind of just fine cards. So I'm just not going to fucking do another neutral one, because there aren't any that are cool. So fuck you, Ornery Tortoise, 3 mana, 3/5, Battlecry, be playable in Odd Rogue. Fuck!